I'm glad you came back and I didn't scare you away. So let's talk through the solution for this exercise. You may have gotten stuck on a few points, or there might have been some things that were confusing. So we'll take our time and make sure that we talk through each of these little bits. I'm going to walk you through these instructions, and then we'll switch over and we'll do the code. We'll run the code. We'll see those end results, okay? So you'll notice on instruction number 1, it says define an add favorite book function. Well, if you recall from our slides, and you probably saw it several times, the way we make a function is to use the function keyword. So over here in my exercise file, up here at the top where that code comment is, I'm going to take that one out and I'm going to actually define a function. We use the function keyword, and I'm going to say add favorite book. And then we need to receive some input. It needs to receive an input, a single parameter called book name. So I'm going to name it book name. Right inside those parentheses, that's a parameter. Now, just for the purposes of us testing, let's just print out whatever's been passed in. So I'm just going to say console.log book name. And then if we copy this code over into one of our run environments, I'm going to use run.js. If I run that code, you'll notice that it'll print out all 5 of them, because each time add favorite book was called, it's receiving book name, it's passed in, and then we're printing it out. Okay, now the second item in the instruction says, if the provided book name string does not have the word great in it with a capital G, then that's when you add it to the favorite books array. And there's several key hints here that you want to look at. Number 1, the hint says, if we want to figure out whether one substring is in a different string, then we say SomeString.includes in the another string, and that'll tell us if another string is inside of some string somewhere. Okay? So that's the first thing that we want to do. We want to make a decision, and we remember we talked about decisions. We can use the if statement. So we're going to say if, and the thing that we're looking for is to see if book name includes, and then the thing we want to check for is whether or not it includes the word great. And that's when we're going to do something. But actually, this is backwards, because the instructions say only if it doesn't include. So we want to basically end up filtering out the ones that have great. We only want to do it if it doesn't include. And you might remember from our discussion of operations that the exclamation mark is how we negate or we complement a Boolean value. So if this one would have returned true, we want it to be false. And if it would have returned false, we want it to return true. So we're going to flip it by putting the exclamation mark there. So now I'm just going to do that console log statement again. We'll just make sure this time that we're only printing out the 3 book names that don't have the word great in it. So we'll switch back over to our run environment. We'll run this, and we should see only the 3 book names. And then we've filtered out. We have not printed out Great Gatsby or Great Expectations. Okay? So that allows us to see we validated that our if statement decision logic is working correctly. We can do the same thing in a Chrome console as we're doing in run.js. All right, now, the item says that we should be adding it to the favorite books array, not just printing it out, but adding it to the favorite books array. And here, this third hint tells us how to put something into array. We give the array name, and then we say .push, and we give it the value that we want to push in. So let's do that. Instead of console.log, let's actually just say favorite books .push, and what we want to push in is the book name that's been passed to us. So book name. Now, after all 5 of those have been called, then the favorite books array should have only the 3 in it that don't have the great keyword. So we could quickly check whether that was true by just printing out the contents of favorite books. After we've made these 5 calls, favorite books should have all 3 of them contained in it. Let's try that. I'll copy that code, come back over here to run.js, and when I run this code, we should see it print an array with those 3 strings in it. And sure enough, now we see an array with those 3 strings having been included. Okay, back to the instructions. Next item in our instructions said we want to make a print favorite books function. Well, we already know how to do functions. That's just the function keyword. This one's not going to receive any parameters. So let's try our hand at that. In this to-do statement, in place of the to-do statement, we're going to write a function called print favorite books. And it doesn't receive any parameters, so we just do that open close parenthesis. Now I don't want to forget to take this console log out, so I'll remember to take that one out. We have our print favorite books function, and this is going to be called after we've done the add favorite books. So let's do that down here. Let's actually call print favorite books. And you remember that the way that we execute a function is we put a parentheses right after the variable name. That's how we execute a function. Now the instructions tell us what print favorite books needs to do. It first needs to print out a message that says favorite books : and then it's going to have a number for how many are in that favorite books array. All right, so let's do a console.log statement, and we're going to be printing something out. And I'm going to use, because the hints tell us to use the backtick kind of string, that will allow us to include a value inside of another string. So let's use backtick. And then inside of this string, we're going to say favorite books with a colon. And then the way that we add a value inside of a string, the way we drop that value in is we do the $, curly brace, delimiting. And then inside of it is the expression where we want to print out which, what is the number of the books. And the way we know the number of the books is going to be the length of this array. So we want to say favorite books.length. That's going to be the message that we want to print out. Let's just test this code as is and make sure it should print out favorite books 3 whenever we execute it. So I'll come over here and execute our code, and sure enough we get the message favorite books 3. Okay, now back to the instructions. It says, finally, print favorite books should loop through that favorite books array. There's our keyword. We're going to be using a loop. It's going to loop through that favorite books array and print out each value. And we want to make sure, we've already done this part where we are calling the print favorite books function. And it gives us a hint here, which is critical. It says use the for of form. You remember in the slides, a few slides back, there were two ways of doing a for loop. One was where we were counting with an I variable, and one was where we were just getting all the values in an array. It's going to be easier for our purposes to use the second form of that, which was this for of loop. So let's do that. Let's go back to our print favorite books function, and we'll type in for, and we need to declare a variable. So we'll say let, and we're using let here just so that we add the variable only in the for loop instead of the function. Either way, you could have used a var if you prefer, but I'm going to use a let. We're going to say for let, and then we want to say book name of, and then the thing that we're going to get all the values out of is favorite books. That's our array. So we're going to say for let book name of favorite books, and then we're going to do console.log book name. Now, if we test this, we're expecting it to first print out favorite books 3, and then one line at a time, we're expecting it to print out only the 3 books that are in our favorite books array. If we've done our jobs correctly, this application should work now. So I'll switch over one last time to run.js, and we will run this code. And there we go. It says favorite books 3. Let me move it over so it's a little easier to say. Favorite books 3. A Song of Ice and Fire, Crime and Punishment, and You Don't Know JS. Those are clearly the 3 best books that have ever been written. All right, so hopefully you're feeling a lot more comfortable with some of these basic programming principles. If things were a little bit confusing for you, that's okay. Try this again. Try the exercise from scratch. Just start over from the empty file and try going through the instructions. Maybe try, if you were able to get the exercise working from up to the point of the solution, maybe try adding something. Maybe try add some more books, so add some more calls to add favorite book, or maybe try filtering out a different value from the book name or something like that. Play around with this code a little bit. Don't be afraid to actually write some JavaScript, because there really is no better way of learning how to code JavaScript.